I've seen senior project managers lose authority in meetings because they didn't understand the difference between tolerance and threshold. I'm talking about experienced leaders who've managed million-dollar projects. They walk into an executive review, they present a risk update, and leadership asks one question. Are we within tolerance or have we crossed the threshold? Blink stare, game over. Today, I'm breaking down risk tolerance versus risk threshold, the distinction that either builds or destroys your executive credibility. Here's the technical definition for these two items. Risk tolerance is the acceptable range of variation around an objective. Risk threshold is the specific point where a risk becomes unacceptable and requires escalation. Sounds straightforward, right? But here's what happens when PMs confuse them. They either escalate too early, panicking leadership over every minor variance, creating a boy who cried wolf syndrome, or they wait too long, letting problems fester until they're full-blown crisis. This is all resulting in missing the window to course correct. Both mistakes destroy trust, and both are completely avoidable. Let me give you a framework that makes this all crystal clear. Tolerance equals bandwidth. It's a range, the cushion, the acceptable wiggle room that you have for your project. Whereas tolerance says, we're okay if cost fluctuates between 5%. That's your operating zone. You're managing normally, no escalations needed. Thresholds equal triggers. It's the line in the sand. No alarm. The point of no return. Threshold says, if we hit 6%, escalate immediately. It's your tripwire. The moment you need to involve your leadership. The difference in this matters because tolerance is about comfort. Thresholds are about action. So let me give you an example when it comes to budget variance. Your project has $1 million budget. Leadership says we have a tolerance of plus or minus 5%. That means that you can operate between $950,000 and $1,050,000 without escalations. And you're at week 8. You check the numbers. You were at $1,020,000, 2% over your baseline, but you're still within tolerance. You document it. You monitor it. You adjust where you can, but you don't need to escalate. Now let's say you're in week 12. You hit $1,065,000. You're 6.5% over. You've now crossed your threshold. This is not monitoring the situation anymore. This is an escalation situation. You bring your sponsor in immediately. You present the options. You discuss rebaselining or cutting your scope. Hopefully you can see the difference. Tolerance lets you manage the work. It lets you keep going and lets you make your internal adjustments. Threshold forces you to escalate and bring in your leadership. Here's what a lot of PMs just tend not to realize. Executives expect variance. They know projects can't go perfectly. We don't live in that type of world. They know projects fluctuate. They know budgets fluctuate. Schedules shift. Scope evolves. That's why tolerance exists. They don't want surprises. If you cross a threshold and don't tell them, you're going to violate trust. But if you escalate every minor variance that's within tolerance, you're wasting their time. Strong project managers understand this balance. They operate confidently within tolerance. They escalate decisively when thresholds are breached. And they articulate the difference when asked. Now, if you're taking the PMP or the RMP exam, PMI loves this distinction. They'll give you a scenario with a question that says, the project is 3% over budget. The risk tolerance is 5%. What should the project manager do next? The wrong answer? Continue monitoring. The right answer? Escalate immediately because you've crossed that threshold. If you don't know the difference, you're guessing on these exam questions and you're guessing on real life projects. So if you're a mental model that'll lock this in forever, tolerance equals cushion. It's your shock absorber, your buffer zone, your margin of safety. You can bounce around without breaking anything and be okay. Thresholds are your alarm. It's your smoke detector, the emergency brake. The red line that when you hit it, you need to take immediate action. Cushion versus alarm. Operating zone versus escalation point. Management versus intervention. Lock that in and you'll never confuse them again. Now you know the difference. If you're studying for the PMP or RMP and want to nail these distinctions on exam day, and more importantly, apply them with confidence in real life projects, check out my full certification course schedule. Link is going to be down in the description. And if this helped you see tolerance versus threshold differently, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Have you ever escalated a risk way too early? I'll see you in the next Foundational Friday. Go define your thresholds. 44 Risk PM. Out.